May 633 AD. Mesopotamia is trembling. The cradle of civilization, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates, is on fire. In just weeks, two mighty armies of the Sassanian Persian Empire have been shattered. The Battle of Chains ended in humiliation. The Battle of the River turned the Euphrates crimson. For Emperor Yezdegerd III, ruling from the glittering capital of Ctesiphon, this was no longer a frontier disturbance. This was an existential threat. The empire that had fought Rome for centuries, the empire of armored cataphracts, war elephants, and elite noble cavalry, was being torn apart by men they once mocked as desert nomads. And at the center of it all stood one man, Khalid ibn al-Walid. This is the story of the Battle of Walaja, a tactical masterpiece so brilliant that historians compare it to Hannibal's double envelopment at Cannae. The Sassanian Empire in 633 was exhausted. For over 2 decades, Persia and Byzantium had bled each other dry in one of the longest wars of antiquity, 602 to 628 AD. Cities burned, treasuries emptied, armies shattered. When peace finally came, both superpowers were broken. And into that power vacuum surged the rapidly expanding forces of the Rashidun Caliphate. After crushing Persian forces at Kazima and Mizar, Khalid advanced deeper into Iraq, the empire's agricultural heartland. Losing Mesopotamia would mean losing food, taxes, and prestige. For Emperor Yezdegerd III, a young and politically fragile emperor, defeat was not an option. So he ordered total mobilization, not one army, 2. The strategy was elegant and devastating. General Zagar, a seasoned frontier commander familiar with Arab warfare, would march to Walaja, a plain near the convergence of the Euphrates and desert routes. Behind him, another force under Bahman Jaduya, commanding elite imperial reserves, would move south. The trap was simple. Zagar pins Khalid in battle. Bahman arrives from the north. The Muslims are crushed between 2 Persian armies, a classic hammer and anvil. And on paper, it was flawless. But Khalid was not blind. His intelligence network, scouts embedded across Iraq, detected the movement. He immediately understood the danger. If the Persian forces combined, their numerical superiority, estimated possibly between 30,000 to 50,000, would overwhelm his smaller army of roughly 15,000. So Khalid made a decision that would define military history. He would destroy them separately, before the second army could tie its sandals. The night before Walaja. When Khalid reached Walaja, Zagar was already deployed. The Persian general had chosen strong ground, a flat, open plain ideal for heavy infantry formations. Behind his army stood low ridges protecting his rear. Or so he thought. To Zagar, the ridges were defensive security. To Khalid, they were opportunity. That night, under complete darkness, Khalid executed one of the boldest maneuvers of the 7th century. He detached around 4,000 cavalry, nearly half his mounted force, under 2 trusted commanders. Their mission? Ride wide, disappear, circle unseen, position themselves behind the Persian army, hidden beyond the ridges, and wait. Not attack at dawn, not interfere early. Wait until the Persians believed they were winning. It was psychological warfare as much as military strategy. The battle begins. At sunrise, Persian war drums echoed across the plain. Armored infantry advanced in disciplined ranks, shields locked, spears forward. Behind them stood cavalry units and possibly war elephants, symbols of Persian military might. The initial clash was brutal. The lighter Muslim infantry struggled against the heavily armored Persian line. Step by step, the Persians pushed forward. Steel rang, dust rose, men fell. Hours passed. From Zagar's viewpoint, victory seemed inevitable. The Muslim center began to bend backward. But this was no collapse. It was deliberate. Khalid ordered a controlled retreat, shaping his formation into a crescent. A trap was forming. Seeing the Muslim line recoil, Zagar committed fully. He ordered his wings to press inward, pouring strength into the center. The Persian army compacted, tightening into a dense mass. They focused forward. They forgot the hills. Then it happened. From behind the ridge, thunder. 4,000 cavalry burst over the crest, descending like a storm. The Persian rear was completely exposed. The cry of Allahu Akbar erupted from behind them. Shock turned to panic. At the exact same moment, Khalid halted the retreat. The Muslim infantry planted their feet and pushed forward. The Persian army was now surrounded, front, rear, flanks. A perfect double envelopment, a maneuver Hannibal used at Cannae 850 years earlier. But here, on the plains of Iraq, it was reborn. Inside the Persian ranks, chaos exploded. Men were too tightly packed to swing weapons. Rear units were cut down by cavalry charges. Command and control evaporated. Discipline turned into terror. Once panic spreads in a compressed formation, it becomes unstoppable. By late afternoon, organized resistance ended. It became slaughter. Historical sources suggest casualties were catastrophic. Very few escaped. Zagar fled into the desert with a handful of guards. He never reached Ctesiphon. The desert claimed him. He died alone, from thirst. Walaja was not just a battlefield victory, it was psychological devastation. 3 Persian armies had now been destroyed in succession. The myth of Sassanian invincibility was broken. Khalid had demonstrated strategic intelligence, operational speed, tactical brilliance, psychological manipulation. And this victory opened the road deeper into Iraq. But the war was not finished. Bahman's army still marched, and ahead lay the Battle of Walaja, a battle so bloody it would stain Khalid's legacy forever. Military academies studied double envelopment as one of the most difficult maneuvers to execute. It requires perfect timing, hidden reserves, iron discipline, psychological manipulation, flawless communication. At Walaja, Khalid executed it under desert conditions against a numerically superior imperial army. This was not luck, it was design. On that burning plain in 633 AD, the balance of power shifted. An exhausted superpower was facing a new force driven by faith, momentum, and extraordinary leadership. The sands of Walaja did not just swallow an army, they swallowed an era. And the story was only beginning, because at al-Walid, the river would run red again. If you want to witness the next chapter, the Battle of Walaja, subscribe to Historic Warlands. Because history is not just about dates, it's about decisions. And sometimes, one decision changes the world.